Good morning, students. I welcome you back to this series of lectures on rhetoric. And this is supposed to be the last class on rhetoric. Last day, we were discussing synecdoche. And let me remind you that the formula of synecdoche was SAPIM, SAPIM. And we also dealt with some of the categories. In fact, all of the categories that are there, we dealt with SAPIM. That means there are 5 categories that we dealt with. Today we'll be dealing with metonymy. And you can very well see that I have written a formula for metonymy also. Now the formula for metonymy is miscape. M-I-S-C-A-P-E. Miscape. M-I-S-C-A-P-E. Okay. So this is the formula for metonymy. From the very formula, you kind of guessed it quite correctly that there will be around 7 categories under metonymy. So without much ado, we move on to the first category that we have in our hands. Okay. So the first alphabet is M. As you can see from the very things that I have written on board, the first category starts with M, alphabet M, and the category is maker for the work. This implies that in a particular given sentence, the name of a famous writer or the name of a famous maker will be provided to you. As students, we need to decipher the work that particular person has actually done. So maker's name will be there in the sentence itself. You have to find out the work that he has done. Okay, so this is the reason why the category sounds maker for the work. So maker will be there in the sentence. You have to find out the work. Now we come to the 2 examples that I provided here on this particular board. The first example is I am reading Shakespeare. I am reading Shakespeare. Now definitely from this very particular sentence it becomes clear that the maker that we are referring to here is Shakespeare. Now when I say I am reading Shakespeare, what does that imply? It does not imply that I am reading about Shakespeare's looks or how Shakespeare was. I am actually talking about his works. So I am reading Shakespeare. Shakespeare here in this particular sentence is the maker. And what are we reading actually? I am reading the works of Shakespeare. I have written that down within brackets underneath Shakespeare to make the meaning clear. I am reading Shakespeare. So Shakespeare is the maker. And we are not reading Shakespeare. We are reading works written by Shakespeare. Now we come to the second example. He travels by Ford. He travels by Ford. Now most of us in fact know that Ford is actually a company. Then who is the maker here? Definitely Ford is the maker here. What sort of a company is Ford? Ford is actually a company that makes cars, automobiles. Okay, so he travels by Ford. Ford is the maker. And what does it make? It is the maker of cars. So these 2 are actually the examples of maker for the work. Okay, so in a particular given sentence, the name of the maker will be provided to you. You need to find out the work that particular individual or that particular company has actually done. You need to find out the work that particular person stands for. Okay, so this is maker for the work. Now we move on to the second alphabet, that is I. So instrument for the agent. This is the second category that we have, and one of the easiest among all the others. I stands for instrument for the agent. M, as we know by now, that M stands for maker for the work. I stands for instrument for the agent. Now, suppose if I give you an example that he was killed by a man with a knife. He was killed by a man with a knife. I think we have come across such sentences during our school days when we were kind of filling up the blanks of prepositions that were given to us. Okay, he was killed by a man with a knife. Now, why do I refer to that particular sentence? Because in this sentence, you have to find out the instrument that is being referred to and the agent who has actually killed him. So he was killed by the man. Who is the agent here? The man is the agent here. And what is the instrument that has been used to kill that man? It is the knife. He was killed by the man with a knife. So in this particular sentence, we find both the agent as well as the instrument present. Both the agent who has done the action or done the deed, as well as the instrument with which the deed was actually done, are present in the sentence. But in this particular section that we are talking about, instrument for the agent, a particular sentence will be given to you, but the agent will be missing. The instrument will be there. The names of the instruments will be there. You have to find out who the agent is or who that particular person is who uses that instrument. Okay. So, instrument for the agent, and I have given just one example for this since it is the easiest of all. The pen is mightier than sword, and this is one of the sentences that we have heard quite often since our childhood. The pen is mightier than sword. Now, as you can see, I have underlined two words here, pen as well as sword. These are the two instruments that are there in the sentence. Okay. Now, our function our job as a student is to find out the agent, to find out that particular man who wields the pen or who uses the pen, or the one who uses the sword. And you can very well see that I have written it down under pen is used by writers, sword is used by fighter. So instruments that we were referring to in this particular sentence is pen and sword, and the agent that we ourselves had to find out, I have written down that the names of those agents also. Pen is used by writer and sword is used by fighter. So in this particular sentence, instrument is given, the name of instrument is given. We need to find out the agent, and as we did, we actually found out the agent. Okay, so this is what stands for instrument for the agent. Now we move on to the third category. The third alphabet that we have is S, and we will write it down. S stands for symbol for the thing symbolized. Symbol for the thing symbolized. S stands for symbol for the thing symbolized. So symbol for the thing symbolized. SYMBOL. Symbol for the thing symbolized. Okay. So in this particular sentence, the example to this particular category will always contain a symbol. We need to find out the thing symbolized. Okay, symbol will be given to you in a particular sentence. We need to find out what that particular symbol stands for, or what does it symbolize actually. So, to give you two examples of what that means, as we know, in fact, we people are very clever. We know that red rose stands for love, a yellow rose stands for friendship. So, I think you people are very knowledgeable about symbols. Only thing is, in literature, how do we use that particular thing is the thing that we need to learn. Otherwise, you know what symbol for the thing symbolized stands for. Okay. So, symbol will be given to you. You need to find out the thing that is symbolized by that particular symbol. To use a literary example, since I had used a non-literary one, when I talked of, when I was talking about red rose and the yellow rose. To whom I leave the scepter. To whom I leave the scepter. And some 5 people must be knowing that this particular line has been quoted from Ulysses, written by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Okay, so to whom I leave the scepter. Scepter, what do you mean by a scepter? Actually, in olden days, when there were kings and monarchs, they used to have a scepter in their hand. And from the very photograph or from the very painting, it became clear that the man standing at the center with the scepter in his hand is actually the king. Okay, so scepter is actually a symbol. It is a symbol of power. It is the symbol of kingship. It is the symbol of royalty. And you know from the very poem itself that Ulysses was actually planning to leave his scepter for his son Telemachus. That means Ulysses wanted to quench his wanderlust. He wanted to roam around the whole world to gather knowledge like a sinking star. And he wanted to give this kingship or pass over the kingdom and kingship to his son. So when he says that to whom I leave the scepter, scepter here stands for power and royalty. That means the power now shifts to Telemachus. So scepter is the symbol, power and royalty is the thing symbolized. To come to the second example of this particular category, grey hairs should be respected. Grey hairs should be respected. So again, as you can see, I have underlined the phrase grey hairs. So grey hairs here stands for old people. So grey hair is actually a symbol, and the thing symbolized is old people. Grey hairs should be respected means old people should be respected. So I suppose this particular category is clear to you. Symbol for the thing symbolized. A particular symbol will be provided to you in the sentence itself. You need to find out the thing symbolized. Okay. Now we come to the fourth category. The fourth category starts with the alphabet C. And the category is container for the thing contained. Container for the thing contained. Okay. Now I have actually painted a container and a transparent one at that. I don't know whether transparent containers are actually found, but this is my imagination, and this is out of my sheer imagination that I have created this container. Maybe I will get a Nobel for that. Now you can see from this very rough diagram that I have actually made in order to make you people understand that container means the bucket. You can very well see on the right hand side I have written container with an arrow mark, and I have written underneath it bucket. So container is the bucket here. And what is contained in that particular bucket? Definitely water is contained. Okay. See, I have written that down also. Contained, and beneath contained I have written water. Okay. So why did I draw this particular diagram? To make you people understand that this particular category that we are talking about will give you the name of a container. You have to find out the thing that is contained in that particular container. Okay, the container will be given to you, and it won't be a very simple statement with a bucket and water thing. This is just to illustrate or elaborate the fact what container is actually and what is contained. What do you mean by contained and what is meant by a container? Now we come to the sentence. He keeps a good cellar. He keeps a good cellar. Now what do you mean by a cellar? Cellar is actually a place where wine is stored. Cellar is a place where wine is stored. And you people must be knowing that old wine tastes better. Okay. Though I don't have a very first-hand experience of this. I am a complete teetotaler kind of a person. He keeps a good cellar. So cellar is here the container. And what is stored in this particular cellar is wine. So what was the theme of this particular fourth category? It is container for the thing contained. That means in a particular sentence, the name of the container will be there. We need to find out what the contained is actually. So the container here is the cellar and the thing contained here is wine. Okay. So this is container for the thing contained. Okay. So now we will do a short jump here. We will skip A. We will come to P. That means we completed M. We completed I. We completed S. We completed C. And then a short jump that we took from C to P. And now we'll be dealing with P. We will come to A later in one of our classes after you people have understood the idea of metonymy and have started identifying it, because A is slightly difficult. So we will come to it a bit later. Okay, so we'll be dealing with P here. P means place of production. Okay, now the place of production, it implies that in a particular sentence that will be given to you, the place of production will be given. You need to find out that particular place. Now the first example, the book is bound in Morocco. So if I ask you, can you please underline the place of production here? So definitely you people have underlined it correctly or will underline it correctly. It's Morocco. The book is bound in Morocco. So Morocco is here the place of production. Similarly, the second example, all Arabia breathes from yonder box. We very well know that the perfumes of Arabia or perfumes of Arabian lands are very famous. Okay, so where are those perfumes made? They are made in Arabia. So place of production here is Arabia. So P stands for place of production. Okay, now we move on to the last alphabet that we have, that is E. Now E2 is a bit tough, but we need to deal with E because there are various examples that do come from this particular last alphabet E. Now we come to E. With E we have two categories in fact. The first one is effect for the cause and the second one is cause for the effect. Effect for the cause / cause for the effect. We will be dealing first with effect for the cause. Okay, so from the very tradition we know that the subject effect will be given in the sentence. We need to find out the cause. So in this particular board that I have written, I have given you two examples. These two examples are from effect for the cause. We will come to cause for the effect later, but these examples are actually these two sentences are actually examples of effect for the cause. Okay, now the effect will be given. You need to understand this very clearly. The effect will be given. You need to find out the cause. ठीक है, इफेक्ट का मतलब होता है क्या हो चुका है, वो तुमको स्टेटमेंट में दिया जाएगा. जो तुमको निकालना है वो है कारण. कैनो होलो सेटा. ठीक है, इफेक्ट विल बी गिवन. কি হলো সেটা তোমাকে দেয়া হবে, সেন্টেন্সে দ্যাট উইল বি প্রোভাইডেড টু ইউ. you need to find out the reason behind it. Okay, so the first sentence, let us deal with the sentence to have a clear understanding of this particular category. Swiftly flies the feathered death. Swiftly flies the feathered death. Okay, now when you go through this particular sentence, you will find that obviously it's not easy to understand each and every sentence that is given to you. But the thing that you need to notice is there is a presence of the word death, D-E-A-T-H. Swiftly flies the feathered death. So what this sentence implies is someone is dead. कोई मर चुका है, केउ एकजन मारा गेছে. Okay, so the effect is given, someone has died. Dying is an effect. Now we need to find out what is the reason for the death of that particular individual, and the reason is very much implied in the sentence itself. रीजन सेंटेंस के अंदर ही छुपा हुआ है. यू नीड टू फाइंड आउट कि वो मरा कैसे. ही हैज डाइड, द वर्ड डेथ हैज बिन यूज्ड, सो द इफेक्ट हैज बिन गिवन टू यू. ही इज डेड. You have to find out the reason behind his death. What is the reason behind his death? What is the cause of his death? Something which flies swiftly through the air and which has feathers. Now, definitely birds cannot be the cause of his death. So one that has feathers and one which flies swiftly through the air, that is the cause. Now, what is that particular thing? What is the instrument that we are talking about that has caused his death? We are talking of arrow. A-R-R-O-W. We are talking of arrow. A-R-R-O-W. Because arrow is an instrument which flies swiftly through the air and which also has feathers. For a clear understanding of arrows, please watch Ramayana and Mahabharata. Our respected Prime Minister has actually renewed the telecast of Ramayana and Mahabharata. So you can actually go through those series to find out the makings of an arrow. Okay, so the effect is death and the cause of his death is arrow. So this cause has to be pointed out by us, by the students. The effect will be given. You need to find out the cause. Now we come to the second sentence. In fact, the second sentence, grey hair should be respected. Now you people must have seen this sentence in another category also. It was used with symbol for the thing symbolized also. So the same sentence makes its way in this particular category also. Grey hair should be respected. Grey hair, as I told you, was a symbol of old age. So symbol for the thing symbolized. But it also stands for effect for the cause. Why? Because grey hair, we are talking of grey hair. What if I ask you what is the reason for this grey hair? The effect is grey hair. What is the reason? What is the cause for this grey hair? It is old age. It is old age. So old age is the cause and grey hair is the effect. Okay, so this also falls under the category of effect for the cause. The effect will be given. You need to find out the reason behind that particular effect. Okay, okay. Now we move on to the second category that we have here, cause for the effect. Okay, we now come to cause for the effect. These examples are actually from cause for the effect. They fall under the category of cause for the effect. That means cause will be given, the reason will be given. You need to find out the effect, what would happen. Okay. So these examples fall under the category of cause for the effect. Pardon me, I had a phone call at that point in time. So move him into the sun. This is the first example that falls under cause for the effect. Okay, move him into the sun. This line is taken from a poem by Wilfred Ahn. The name of the poem is Futility. In fact, most of you must have read this poem in your higher secondary days. It was there in the higher secondary syllabus 2-3 years back. So this line is taken from that particular poem called Futility by Wilfred Ahn. Wilfred Owen. Move him into the sun. Now, Futility is actually an anti-war poem written against war. It talks about the uselessness of war. There are two friends mentioned in the poem. One of them dies in the war. Okay, so here this particular line, move him into the sun. Why does the poet want the body to be moved into the sun? What will be the effect on the dead body if it is moved into the sun? We don't know the effect, what would happen if we move the dead body into the sun. And why is the writer talking of moving the dead body into the sun? Because he believes that sun is actually the source of life. And it might happen that if the body is moved into the sun, his friend might come back to life. That might be the effect of moving him into the sun. But that effect is not given here. We need to decipher that effect from the statement itself, and it's very difficult. It requires a lot of practice to decipher this meaning. Move him into the sun is the cause, and the effect is coming to life. It might happen that his dead friend might come back to life. That might be the effect for the cause. Okay. The second example, the letter shows a neat hand. The letter shows a neat hand. He has a neat hand. This is the cause. And what is the effect of that neat hand? His handwriting is also neat. Okay, so neat hand is here the cause for the effect, that is handwriting. Neat hand is the cause and handwriting is the effect. Handwriting has not been mentioned in the sentence. I have actually written it down. The letter shows a neat hand. Because the hand is neat, the effect is his handwriting is clear, neat and clear. So this is cause for the effect. The cause will be given. You need to find out the effect. Okay, and the first one was the first category that we dealt with. I gave you two examples of that too. Effect for the cause, and these two examples are from cause for the effect. Now this last category that deals with alphabet E might be a bit problematic for you people to understand. If you have any problem, if you have any queries regarding it, you can personally message me on my WhatsApp number, or you can also write it down under the YouTube comment section. I will reply you back. Okay, now it's time for some assignments again. So we will be dealing with assignments now. Okay, so these 4 sentences are your assignments for today. Obviously, let me remind you that these 4 sentences are actually examples of metonymy, and they fall under these categories that we have just now learned. So the first example, or the first homework, or the first sentence that is there on board is, the scepter and crown must tumble down. The scepter and crown must tumble, T-U-M-B-L-E, tumble down. The second sentence is, from courts to camp, from courts, C-O-U-R-T-S, from courts to camp, to cottages, it strays, S-T-R-A-Y-S. From courts to camp to cottages it strays. Sentence 3. And all the earth is gay. And all the earth is gay. Gay here implies happy. All the earth is gay means happy here. Okay. Sentence 4. His silver hairs will purchase us good opinion. His silver hairs will purchase us good opinion. Okay. So this will be our assignment for next week. And in between this, we will also be dealing with scansion. Today we come to the end of the rhetoric portion, figures of speech. I think we completed around 24 figures of speech during our lecture series on rhetoric. We will also deal with certain passages taken from poems as well as other things. Prose, I don't think. In your exam, only poems are actually taken for this rhetoric purpose. So we will be dealing with poems, and we will try to find figures of speech from those particular poems, from certain lines. We will give you 4 lines or 5 lines, and you need to identify which figure of speech do you find in that particular sentence or that particular poem. Okay. So these are the 4 assignments that you have for today. We end our class here. Wish you a very happy 74th Independence Day. Let our country progress. We want our country to progress as the one that was visioned by Rabindranath Tagore, of what he actually talks about in Where the Mind is Without Fear. So let our country grow with the vision of Rabindranath Tagore. So with this we end this class, and very soon we will again meet with the scansion section.